The story of the modern man is a story of excess. It's a story of more. It's a story of extremes in an attempt to find fulfillment. And think about this, when it comes to success, what is going to make us successful? More money, more possessions, more power, more control. The story of health is an exaggerated image of masculinity, this archetype that we're supposed to be. The story of sex is control, abundance of women, a skill set to guarantee that this constant validation, this constant choice, this constant selection and power that we have is finally going to complete us as a man. And see, the story of modern man in our culture always ends up in one singular result. It ends up in hunger. It ends up in desperation. It ends up in wanting more and never being fulfilled. And so we've created this world where we have everything we want. We have the information, we have whatever it is needed to satisfy us, yet we are still hungry. We are still not knowing what it means to be a man. We are still not knowing what femininity is. Sex is no longer sex. Success and purpose is no longer purpose. And yet, we demand more of it. We want more of it. And we believe in more of it. And see, the story of sexual health, the story of TSL, the story of the sexual life, and the men's group of all of what we strive to be, what we work as men and gather as men to become, is much different. Because the result of that story ends in satisfaction. It ends in self-love. It ends in an empowered identity of knowing who we are, of being in any situation, whether it's good or bad, and we might feel pain, we might feel sadness, we might feel happiness and joy, but we always know who we are. And it ends in love for women. And see, it's interesting because the story that men tell who are good with women, the story of men who love women, is very different than the story that we hear in the men's development industry, the story that we hear in the seduction and pickup industry, the story that we hear from the many coaches, the marketing, the exaggerated lies and different types of presentations that are supposed to make you a man. And see, I started out in pickup. And I wanted threesomes, I wanted sex, I wanted control over women, I wanted orgies, I wanted power. I wanted to be able to have sex with a woman so that she would worship me. Yet, the funny thing about that is to think that that at all will make you a sexual person, will make you know all of that sex can give you, that will make you a man, and will make you know women, means you know nothing about women, you know nothing about sex, you know nothing about masculinity, yet what you know about is starvation. And see, when I actually achieved those things, when I got those things, and there's no judgment of them, I love sex in every different way that I can have, as long as it's an exchange, in all the different ways, promiscuity, monogamy, whatever it is. We can find happiness, we can find fulfillment, and all of those things. And I think that's a big problem. We look at sex as if it has to be a certain way and it has to be regulated. That's part of the problem. But what I learned and what I got almost immediately from having that, from having a life that actually was abundant with women, that I was using to validate myself, that I was using to satisfy this unfulfilling hunger, was that there was a beauty happening. There was an exchange happening. There was a change that was happening in me that was not a routine, not a frame, not a philosophy, not a piece of information, not a title that was given to me. But it was only through my pure expression to them, changed and shaped by them. And so what I'm saying here is, what changed me the most, what made me know masculinity the most, what made me know sexual fulfillment the most, was actually my melding, my merging, my surrendering, my allowing myself to be changed, influenced, and shaped by the women that were in my life. In whatever situation that was, whether it was a one-night stand, whether it was in an orgy, whether it was in a relationship, whether it was through a commitment to our entire lives, or whether it was honesty in just that singular moment. And see, when you have a conversation with men that are good with women, this is what you hear. The other day, I was having dinner with my friend Nick Sparks, and it was actually amazing. We were with the Ars Amorati crew, with Hans and Jordan, and you know, they live in Bucharest or are traveling around the world. It's very rare that all these people will sync up. And we had a conversation of men who love women, of men who've had experience with women, of what that means, and you know, where they come from with the Ars Amorati side of this beauty, this delight, this ease, you know, all this sort of stuff that is really outside of pickup and really into what it means to pursue femininity and complete yourselves in those ways, and listen to what they say. I mean, they could explain it much better. But for myself and for Nick, you know, coming from the pickup industry, you know, thinking that living with multiple women, that having a harem, that having sex in all these ways and rapidly escalating and getting sex to work in those ways, and there's nothing wrong with that, but thinking that's the complete story of masculinity and thinking that's the complete story of femininity, that can only be maintained by dysfunction. And so it's interesting because when we hear this voicing coming from the men's development industry, the pickup industry, that you're going to be happy, that you're going to be happy by fucking, that you're going to be happy by having 3 women live with you, that somehow that makes you a man and somehow that should validate you. Man, that person does not know shit about women. That lifestyle may give you many virtues, but the complete story of masculinity, the complete story of self, is far beyond that. The complete story of masculinity, the complete story of love and sex, has pain, it has rejection, it has being shaped, it has being hurt, it has loving, it has giving yourself. It has moments of dominance, and it does have moments of power. But the power comes from exchange, the power comes from choice, the power comes from expression. And it doesn't come from this bullshit checklist of who you think you're supposed to be. And it comes from you, being you, putting it out there to the world, and being shaped by what comes back to you. If you want to know what it means to be a man, if you want to start that journey of being a man, you can start right now. You don't need shit. You don't need money. You don't need a woman in front of you. You don't need certain accessibility to whatever particular thing you think you don't have. What you need to do is take the things that you are born with, your passion, your ambition, your sex, your mindset, your health, your body. Fully put it out there in the world. See what happens. Allow it to be shaped, allow it to be changed, allow it to be hurt. Sacrifice it to the point that you honor it. And what you'll get back is a sense of self. And that sense of self can find happiness, peace, satisfaction in any situation that comes your way. You don't have to be hungry. You don't have to be desperate. You don't have to have more to be happy. But what you do have to do is be willing to invest you in all your beliefs and all that is. Stop being something else in order to be a man. Stop being someone else in order to be sexual. Start learning what it means to be you. And you can start now.